Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Beanie and welcome back to another video, guys. Today is a huge day. The Atlanta Braves have been by far the most aggressive team early on this offseason. They have signed Travis d'Arnaud, they have signed Will Smith, they have re-signed Darren O'Day and Chris Martin, and today they made a huge signing by signing Cole Hamels to a one-year $18 million deal. Now, the initial reactions to this announcement has mostly been, and it seems like it's coming from non-Braves fans, that $18 million is a lot of money for a pitcher like Cole Hamels, and the fact that it's only a one-year deal is actually not a good thing, which is a weird sentiment in my opinion. First of all, 1 year is a great thing. It means that there is virtually no risk with this signing because you're not tied up into a long commitment to an old pitcher. Cole Hamels is 35 years old. You don't want to be giving out a 3-year deal to a guy like that. Secondly, $18 million really isn't that much money. I mean, if you go by the standard dollar per WAR metric, you're paying about $9 million for every WAR that a player is worth. And Cole Hamels is projected to be worth about 2.0 to 2.5 WAR next year, so $18 million is actually just market rate for a pitcher of his caliber. But there are some questions that arise about the Braves whenever you make this signing. Is the payroll going to go up? Because you still have some holes on this roster that you need to fill, and it seems like you don't have the money to do it now after this signing, but is that really true? Is payroll going to be going up? Are they going to be looking to address those needs through trade? Or what are the Braves going to do? We're going to talk about that in a minute, but before we do that, let's talk just about Cole Hamels, the pitcher. So the first thing that I want to look at is how old, Cole Hamels' age and whether or not he has shown steady signs of decline in his older years. And I was actually really surprised. His metrics have remained remarkably stable over the course of his career. Right now, whenever he started his career, he was never like really an overpowering, flame-throwing pitcher, but his average fastball velocity was around 91 miles per hour, and now in 2019, it's still right around 91 miles per hour. So there's no real decline in terms of fastball velocity or even really any of his other pitches. I think his cutter might be a mile per hour slower, but other than that, everything else is relatively stable. The one thing that has regressed a bit is his walk rate. Early on in his career, he was generally walking about 2 batters every 9 innings, and nowadays it seems like he's more in that 3.0 to 3.5 range, which is concerning. That is something that you might want to take a look at because there does seem to be a correlation. As his walk per 9 goes up, so does his FIP, so does his ERA. So it'd be nice if the Braves could see him kind of keep it under that 3.5 mark, because if it goes over that, then he is probably going to struggle. But there are also several encouraging factors when it comes to Cole Hamels. First of all, last year he finally got his K per 9 back above 9 per 9 innings. I think it was like at 9.18 or something like that per 9 innings, which is great. If he's striking out batters, then that's a good thing, obviously. Another thing that looks very encouraging from my perspective is the fact that he had a pretty good year last year, and he had a BABIP against of 315, which is well above, I mean, not well above, it's above his career average of about a 287 BABIP. So you would expect that the batting average on balls in play to regress back towards that 287, and if it does, then all of his other numbers are going to come down as well. I don't expect it to go all the way back down to 287 because that is factoring in his younger years as well, and he's not going to be pitching like 2008 Cole Hamels or whatever. But if it comes down to the 290, 295, 300 range, even that small improvement would really help out his numbers, which were already pretty good with the Cubs last year. But what this signing shows me the most is that we now know exactly what type of GM Alex Anthopoulos is, and it's the type of GM that I would be if I were running a baseball team. It seems like he really, really values those high average annual value, short-term contracts to older veteran players. His mode of operation seems to be, let's give these relatively big, kind of pricey 1 year, maybe 2 year contracts to older players so that we can keep our financial flexibility. And if we ever have a Ronald Acuna or an Ozzy Albies, one of these really young foundational superstars, we'll lock them up long term for a really, really low price point. And that's just such a good strategy, because the guys that you're pretty sure are going to hit, that are going to be consistent 4 to 5 win players every single year that are young, you have those guys locked up through the entirety of their prime. And then you build around them with very, very low risk guys like Josh Donaldson, like Cole Hamels, like Nick Markakis on these 1 year deals. And it really puts together a team that can produce a lot of value, but you still, you don't have to overcommit money or years, like contract length, to these players in order to get them. It maintains that financial flexibility, and that's the thing that I really love about this signing. But right now, I would only call it a good signing, a market rate signing for a pitcher that is going to produce about the amount of value that his contract is worth. What would catapult this into a great signing is if we had a bit more information about where the Braves' payroll is right now. Because over the past several years, the Braves' payroll has seemed to be capped at about $130 million on opening day, and then ultimately at about $140 million, and there were no indications that they plan to go past that anytime soon. But right now, they are very, very quickly approaching that ultimate $130 million number, and they still have holes that they need to fill, and I don't think that they have the money to go out and fill those holes without going over that $130 million cap. So that either means one of two things. One, payroll is going up, or two, the Braves are going to have a bunch of, well, not a bunch, they're going to have one glaring hole on their team, and that's third base. So with that being said, what do the Braves do at third base? Because right now, in my opinion, that is the most glaring hole on this team. They have their bullpen set up with Will Smith, Darren O'Day, Chris Martin, all the guys that they're bringing back. They have their rotation with Fulte, Soroka, Fried, and now Cole Hamels on there, and they'll find a fifth starter from within more than likely. Their lineup is mostly set with Travis d'Arnaud filling out the other catching spot with Tyler Flowers. The one spot that they need is third base and maybe a right-handed outfielder, but they can find that relatively cheaply. The big signing or trade that the Braves have remaining is third base. So what do? So, in my opinion, they have four options. They can either make a big splash signing, a big splash trade, a budget trade, or a budget signing. I mean, really, it's not even my opinion. It's just a fact that those are really the four options available to you. I guess a fifth option would just be to roll with Austin Riley or Johan Camargo. But given what the Braves have done, I don't think that that's going to be what they do. So a big splash signing would look something like Josh Donaldson. Anthony Rendon, I guess a lot of people can dream on that, whatever. It's not going to happen. The Braves, Alex Anthopoulos is not going to commit that amount of money in that many years to a guy like Anthony Rendon. It's just never going to happen. But a guy like Josh Donaldson, if he would accept maybe like a 3-year contract, maybe a 3+1 at an average annual value of $22 million or something like that, I could see that happening. I don't think that at this point, I don't think it's super realistic, just given where the Braves payroll is sitting right now and how Alex Anthopoulos seems to operate. I don't think that that's going to be the direction that they go, but I do think that it's at least somewhat in the realm of possibility. Another thing that they could do is make a big splash trade. Get a guy like Chris Bryant. His name has been thrown out there a lot, but there are some massive drawbacks that come with getting a guy like Chris Bryant in the Braves' current situation. One is that Chris Bryant's going to be owed a lot of money, probably around $20 million this coming up year, and that's really not a whole lot better than a Josh Donaldson signing. And another thing is that Chris Bryant is going to cost you massively in terms of prospects. He still has 2 years of control left. He's basically a 4 to 5 win player. In arbitration, those guys always are going to cost you a good bit in prospect capital. They would probably have to give up Christian Pache or Drew Waters, maybe Ian Anderson, if they wanted to go out and get him. And I don't really think that that's something that the Braves are all that inclined to do. And then you could have a budget signing, a guy like Travis Shaw, maybe a bounce back candidate like Kim, to come in and hope that he can give you more than he gave the Brewers last year. Maybe he can go back to that 2017 Travis Shaw where he was putting up an 800 plus OPS. Last season, in my opinion, it looked like an anomaly for Travis Shaw. I think he's better than what he showed last year, and I think we have evidence to attest to that. I think that something like that could be pretty likely for the Braves. Maybe give him a 1-year bounce back deal at a low annual value, and then maybe address the outfield more substantially or something like that. And then we have the budget trade option, and this isn't even really like a budget trade. This would be a massive trade if the Braves could pull it off. And this player that I'm about to mention is just the perfect fit for the Braves. If they could somehow swing a deal for this guy, I would be so happy. And I think that it could get done if both parties were willing to play ball. I think that the Braves have things that this team needs, and I think that this player on this team would just be an absolutely gorgeous fit on the Braves roster. And that player is Eduardo Escobar. You guys know I love Eduardo Escobar. I love him in MLB The Show. I love him in real life. I think he is, in my opinion, just like the type of player that I dream over. He's cheap. He's not expensive. He's willing to take relatively short-term deals. He's not super old. I mean, yeah, I think he's 30 right now, maybe 29, something like that. But he's not super old. He's extremely versatile. He's a switch hitter. Versatile meaning he can play a variety of different positions. He's a switch hitter. A relatively balanced switch hitter. He puts up good numbers. He'll give you an 800 plus OPS. I love Eduardo Escobar. If the Braves could swing a trade for him, and the D-backs, I mean, the D-backs are somewhere in between competing and rebuilding. I mean, they're not really rebuilding, but they're not really competing either. I mean, yeah, they won 85 games last year, I think, something like 85. But, I mean, when you look at that roster, do you really think that's a World Series contender? I don't really think so. They traded Zach Greinke last year, so, I mean, obviously they're not trying to compete that much, you know? So I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility for them to say, okay, yeah, we'll trade this guy. I mean, he only has 2 years left on his contract. We don't think that we're going to be competing for a World Series in the next 2 years. Let's kick some of that value down the road. Let's get some prospects back. Let's get maybe a longer-term MLB impact back, and let's do that. So oh, shit. Fucking Mike knocked it over, damn it. Anyways, what I would offer for Eduardo Escobar to the Diamondbacks, I would say, look, you can take Austin Riley and a pitching prospect. Austin Riley, he's MLB ready right now. Yeah, he had some struggles, but he's controlled for a long time. He has a lot of upside. He has a lot of power. We'll give you Austin Riley, and then we'll give you a kind of a tier 2 pitching prospect, someone like Kyle Muller, or maybe obviously not Ian Anderson or Kyle Wright, but basically anyone else. Touki Toussaint, someone like that. Kyle Muller, maybe even a guy below that like Freddie Tarnok or Huascar Yanoa. You know, just someone in that realm, and say here, and maybe even a little bit more than that for Eduardo Escobar. I mean, we are talking about a 3-year player on a cheap 2-year deal. So that is the player that if I were the Braves that I would be targeting right now. If you add Eduardo Escobar to this team and then add an impact right-handed outfield bat to platoon with Ender and Nick Markakis, I think that this is a team that can compete for a World Series right now. I truly believe that. I think they have the pitching at this point with Will Smith, Cole Hamels. Adding them, I think, makes them 1,000 times better. They just have to figure out how to address third base. Once they do that, as a Braves fan, I'll be extremely happy. But anyways, guys, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at Beanie Antics. I will see you guys later, but until then, peace.